You're listening to episode 203 of the D6 podcast.
I don't know anything more important in our society or in the kingdom of God than to help the church, help the family.
Discipleship is not an event, it's a way of life.
And one day it just hit me that discipleship at home was not about doing more. It was about inviting Christ into what we were already doing.
The goal of family ministry is not families sitting on the couch holding hands and singing Kumbaya. The ultimate goal is families that love God, love people, and make disciples of all peoples.
So that's why you're here. You're here to say 1 hour a week, as significant and as awesome as it is, we know that it's not enough, and we want to be intentional with every hour.
You're listening to the D6 podcast. Here's your hosts, Ron Hunter and Jeremy Lee.
This is the family ministry podcast that helps you connect the church and home. How are we doing today, Ron?
Doing very well, Jeremy. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm always excited when Dr. Rob Rienow is here. You gave me a little insight into him, though. Because,
yes.
You know, we talk about family. Dr. Rienow's family has just kind of infiltrated D6. His daughter, Lissy, is an author. His wife is an author. And but at the same time, I want to talk a little bit. You told me his son is actually getting married.
That's
doing,
right.
So
in the fall of this year, his oldest son is getting married. So I told him that we were going to begin praying for he and Amy. I said, more Amy than you.
That's right.
So those of us who have been through that know the challenges of the millions of details and the emotions that go into that. Less so with a son than with a daughter at times.
Yes.
But it's still very powerful on both sides of this. And if we know Rob's story, his goal is to view the family as missionaries and growing that legacy, and he talks about that. And so I told him, I said, hey, you're launching your first son, your first child, into that missionary legacy of where you have cast that vision.
But you've done this twice. You've had two kids get married.
We've had two. Well, both of them. We're done. We are in that wonderful season of life where our kids are grown. They're out there doing life, doing it well, being naive. Our kids are far from perfect. Just like they're far better than we were at their age. I can tell you that.
Sure.
But
what about the wedding though? Let's give some tips.
Man.
Let's give some tips to Dr. Rob Rienow about his son's wedding. What mistakes should he avoid here?
Yeah, just say yes to your wife at every time she asks a question.
This is free. We're not going to charge you, Rob.
Rob, this is your son, so therefore the budget on this one is not exorbitant. You've got those coming down the road, and the key in all of this is make these moments memorable. Capture, whether you journal or, photographs or whatever, capture these moments, reach back into time where you've had some wonderful one-on-ones with this son and spend that in the midst of the chaos. Find those moments to kind of steal away and just plant those seeds about what will bud in the future. How about you, Jeremy? What advice would you give based on whether or not you've conducted services? I know your kids are not quite old enough to that, but You've seen some funny things. You've seen some unusual things. What's something that you would say, hey, this is something I wish that other weddings would incorporate?
Yeah, I've conducted services and messed them up so badly, I've almost worked myself out of a job. I could tell you stories, but I don't even know you'd want to hear.
What's the funniest that's ever happened to you?
I'm going to have to flavor this one because let's just say this. I conducted a ceremony, and it was for a friend. So here's my advice, Rob. No matter how close you are to the scenario, I'm assuming you're going to be a part of the service. Keep it straight to the book. Read out of the book. Don't ad-lib. Don't ad-lib because one of my college buddies, how can I say this? When I was conducting the ceremony, right at the end, I decided I was going to try to be clever and bring in an inside joke. And I quoted a song. I'm not going to say what I quoted, but I thought I was I thought I was saying something else, and it ended up being a slang term for something completely different and horribly wrong. And so in the middle of it's not good, Rob, when you're trying to be clever and funny and personal with the people that you're marrying, and then you say something and the whole crowd gasps. And then the mother of the bride, which in this scenario wouldn't be good at all, starts to just glare at you. That's when you know you messed it up. I've been there, buddy, and don't do that. Don't do that. So there you go. That's all.
Man.
I'm not giving details on you don't want me to.
No. I will tell you, the first wedding I conducted, you know how when the bride enters the room, everybody stands and all eyes are fixed on the bride as she comes down. She's joined with her, soon-to-be husband. And I'm in the middle of the ceremony. Now weddings aren't long. Let's face it. Thank goodness they're not like funerals. So I'm 10 minutes in there. I'm well into the vows, and I look up, and I'm nervous. First wedding. I look up. I'd left the entire congregation standing since the bride entered the room.
I bet you're getting glares.
You can have a seat.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I blew it.
So you were a part of your kids' ceremonies.
Yeah. Both of our kids allowed us to be more that traditional role of dad and mom, and I really loved that. We had got a chance to pray at my daughter's wedding, but I really did enjoy being that spectator. So the kids, both of them, had ministers in their lives that had impacted them. My daughter had asked our student pastor, which some of you guys know, Aaron Pontius. He conducted the ceremony. Didn't marry them; they married each other. He just conducted the ceremony.
That's funny.
And then our pastor Tommy did our sons and our daughter-in-laws. So it was good just to be a parent. I'll be very, very honest about that. Because as a minister, you're pulled into things, and you don't get a chance to either celebrate or mourn at the appropriate occasions.
I love hearing that because that's exactly where my heart is. You're right. My boys are young. And I do think that if they ask, I'm going to serve them like I would serve anybody else. But if they ask me what I would want to just be a dad that day for sure. Because as ministers, there's just a certain mindset you have to get in to be able to serve others in that capacity. And selfishly, I'd love to just be in the mindset of a dad on that day.
That's right.
So I'm glad you got to experience that. And Rob, if you are part of the ceremony, that's awesome too. We're not at all saying that's a bad thing.
So Rob, everything we've given you in this podcast is probably meaningless.
Yeah, so just go ahead and fast forward.
That's right. So let's just jump into your interview.
But I don't want to jump totally in because one of the things I want to make sure people remember is that Rob Dr. Rob Rienow, honor that, is an author for you guys and wrote an incredible book that has been around for a while but has also been redone in a beautiful way called Visionary Parenting.
That's right, and it's been revised and expanded. So if you've got his original release, you probably need to get the updated one because his family has grown and his experiences have grown through the ages and the context of several of his kids. And he and Amy have updated that. But if you go to d6family.com and you click on our store and you type in Rienow, and I'm going to spell that one for you so that you really do have that one. It's Rienow. You will find 7 titles will pop up.
Not all from him.
No, I was going to say, now, just to be fair, they're not all Rob's because his daughter recently released one called The Heart of Your Teen. He and Amy released some of these together. Amy has released one, his wife, The Not So Perfect Mom.
Great
but
title.
One of my favorites, and probably Visionary Parenting, is one of his best, It and Visionary Marriage. In fact, I just recommended, my daughter's been married 2 years, I recommended Visionary Marriage to she and her husband. I said, hey, I don't think you guys have read this together, and I know they read books together. I said, this is the right season for you guys to tackle this book and read it as a young married couple. Yeah. And but one of my other favorite ones that they wrote is 5 Reasons for Spiritual Apathy in Teens.
Yeah.
So some great titles out there for Rob. And for his family members.
We discussed the apathy in teens and other things as well during the interview. You'll enjoy it. So after the break, we'll come back with Dr. Rob Rienow. Well, hey, we have Rob Rienow with us, and you have been with us before. Welcome back, though. Welcome to D6.
Thank you, Jeremy. I'm happy to be back, happy to be with you.
It's kind of weird welcoming you to D6 because you've been with D6 before I was with D6. It's kind of like welcoming your uncle to the family reunion. You belong here.
I'm now the uncle at the family reunion.
Hey, fair enough. For those of you who don't know, this is Dr. Rob Rienow. His most important ministry is loving his wife, Amy. That is the way you start a bio, my friend. And that's the way you should start it every time. I like that. And partnering with her to lead their 7 children to love God. Now, I've interviewed you a bunch. It's always 7. I'm keep waiting for it to roll to 8.
Well, my eldest just got engaged.
Hey, so we might be able to add a grandchild.
So I'm going to add a daughter-in-law.
Okay, my bad. No pressure.
No, which counts. And then grandbabies. What is that? Is that like the 9-month mark or the 10-month mark after marriage? I don't want to put any pressure on them, but
but let's do it. Hey,
I'm just ready for grandbabies. That's all I'm saying.
Are you? That's going to be exciting.
I can't
right?
wait. Can't wait.
Oh. He and Amy are the co-founders of Visionary Family Ministries. And I get to interview Amy this year. And Lissy, your daughter. We're going to talk about that, but I am so excited about that. He's a pastor, church planner, international conference speaker, and the author of several books, including the super foundational Visionary Parenting and Visionary Marriage. Great resources. If you haven't heard of them, please look them up. And when Rob is not fishing for men, he enjoys fishing for fish. Saltwater, freshwater.
All of the above.
Really? Are you the
it.
dude who does the fly fishing? Do you do that?
I am willing to fly fish, yes. Not as much experience, but a couple trips out to Colorado. See, what I do is I sneak fishing in around our conferences.
It's genius.
Yeah.
Genius. How do you find a boat, though? Do you just rent boats, or what do you do?
So you see, you go to the pastor who's hosting the conference, and you say, I'm bringing my 9-year-old son with me, and he loves to fish. Is there a guy in our church that could take us fishing after the conference? And the pastor says, oh, yeah, Mr. Smith he'd love to take you.
See, you're already giving transferable tips to the ministers out there listening. This is how you get free fishing trips when you go speak somewhere. Perfect. Well, hey, let's keep it rolling. You're already doing great. Well, while you're here, you are talking about apathy among teenagers. You've written a book on this, and I know we've talked about it before, but for me, I just want to revisit things with you because these topics don't go away, and people are going to be hearing about you for the first time through this interview. So please give us some of the strategies. We're at the D6 conference. What are some of the things you shared? Let us eavesdrop in on the seminar.
All right. So first thing is to try to set some realistic expectations for the teen years. Okay, I know for me, again, I've got 2 in college, 2 in high school, 3 in elementary school. My expectation for the teen years is that every year from 10 to 19, my kids are going to become more mature, more godly, more responsible. They will honor me more and more. They will grow in their faith every single solitary year and then launch from our house following Jesus. That's my expectation. Now, how many of us, if we charted 10 to 19, if we looked back, would say every single year we just matured? We got more godly. None of us would, right? Every teenager's life is filled with ups and downs. Sometimes we spend months, years going backwards, right? Emotionally, spiritually, relationally. So setting the expectation that a really healthy journey through the teen years has tons of ups and downs, but what we're looking for is an overall trajectory of up. Yeah. So what we do when we work with parents on this stuff is to say, okay, maybe your child is in a down trajectory right now. Maybe it's been 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. Our message certainly is not, well, don't worry about it because it's going to turn around. It's going to turn out great. If they're in a down trajectory, it is really an urgent window of parenting and not a time to get passive. So in this resource that you're talking about, it's called 5 Reasons for Spiritual Apathy in Teens and What Parents Can Do to Help. We won an award for that. Longest book title. It was awesome. But it is what the book's about. Yeah. Why do teens get apathetic? In other words, kind of like blah, whatever, especially when it comes to spiritual things.
Yeah, so common.
Right? Exactly. So we walk through 5 common reasons why that can happen. I'll give you the 5, and then you can pick the one you want me to talk about more.
How about we do that? Yeah.
All right. One is that the parent's heart's not turned to the teenager. One is that the teenager's heart not turned to the parent. A third reason is secret sin. A fourth reason is a lack of spiritual nourishment. And the fifth reason is a spirit of rebellion. Which one do you want to pick?
Let's go rebellion.
Oh, gosh. Well, there's a reason we put that one last. And the reason we put it last is we work with a lot of parents. Let's say their kid's struggling spiritually. They've got this apathetic attitude. The parent comes to us and they says, I'll tell you what our kid's problem is. He's got a rebellious attitude. He's got a rebellious spirit. We fix that rebellious spirit, we're going to fix everything that's going on. The truth is that the child may have a rebellious spirit. They may have a rebellious attitude. That's true. However, we would encourage parents to spend a whole lot more time looking at 1 through 4 before you get to that one. Is your heart turned to your teenager? Is it the number one mission of your life to build a relationship with this teenager and help them get safely home to their Father in heaven? If that's not in place, quit worrying about their attitude and worry about your heart. Is their heart turned to you? In other words, have they shut you out of their life because of a broken relationship with you? Do you need to do just some relationship repair before you can do any spiritual repair? Then this question of secret sin. Is there something going on in your kid's life that you have no clue about that is causing spiritual damage to them? Is your child getting spiritual food? Are they praying with you at home? Are they a part of the corporate worship service of the church? Do they have family worship in the home? Or do you just drop them off at Christian school, drop them off at youth group, and cram vitamins down their throat all the time? You're cramming vitamins down their throat round the clock, and they're acting weak because they're not getting any spiritual food. So my point is parents need to spend a whole lot more time on 1 through 4 before we get to rebellion. Okay. But since you want to talk about that, we'll talk about that.
You gave me the choice.
I did. Two big things that could be going on with a kid that's got a rebellious spirit. One is you have a Christian teenager who is in a dark place spiritually. So there's been evidence of spiritual life in them. They've trusted Christ. You've seen fruit of salvation, but they're just in a chapter right now where they're hard-hearted. And I ask, adults, is it possible for a Christian to be in a season of hard-heartedness toward God? What's the answer?
Absolutely.
Absolutely it is. And so if we all have that part of our testimony, seasons in our life where we've been hard-hearted toward the Lord, it's very possible, right? Your teenager is in a similar type of season.
Yeah.
So in that situation, we've got to be full of grace and full of truth. Full of grace is I love you no matter what. Never going to abandon you. I'm committed to you the rest of my life. Full of truth, I'm concerned about you. I'm concerned that you are making some choices and you're hardening your heart against the Lord and against us, that if that continues, that's going to lead to a lot of misery. And I love you, and I'm committed to you, and I'm never going to abandon you. Full of grace, full of truth. A lot of parents are better at one than the other. Very, very graceful, but they don't have tough conversations. Some parents have a lot of tough conversations without the love and the grace. And Jesus is full of grace, full of truth. Both his dials go to 11, and he's got them cranked up. Now, the other area where you may have a rebellious spirit going on is that it's possible that your son or daughter's not converted. So they're acting spiritually dead because they are spiritually dead. I think one of the worst things to say in that situation to a child is, well, maybe you're just not a Christian then. Maybe that's the problem. I think it's a horrible thing to say, and I don't think any positive spiritual fruit can come from that at all. Put yourself, I'm going to try to put myself in that situation. I've got a child that's acting spiritually dead. They're acting hard-hearted because they are. And by the time they're 13, 14, 15, it just becomes obvious to me. I think that they're acting in accordance with their nature that they got from me. I would pray that if I came to that conclusion, that there would not be an ounce of anger in my heart, and that I would be overflowing with compassion for them. And just sadness for them, not anger, right? I mean, they got it from me in the first place. Jesus, Matthew 9:36, he looks out at the crowd of lost people, says his heart was filled with compassion with them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. So if you've got a situation where you've got a child that you think that maybe they're just not converted, you ask for Christ's heart of compassion for them, and then you are going to love them with all of Christ's love for them, and you're going to look for every opportunity you can to share the gospel with them so that we see when the Holy Spirit's time is for them to repent and trust Christ.
Man, I get stuck in when I interview you. First of all, you just like mesmerize me with your answers. I'm like all into it. Then you'll ask me a question and I'll be like, appreciate you so much. Hey, another session you're leading here, and then we're going to take a quick break. But I want to hear about the workshop. that is Essential Biblical Foundations and Practical Approaches to Move Your Family Ministry to the Next Level. They didn't give me the title. They just gave me the description, so I'm laying it out there. But what are some of the strategies that help us take our family ministry to that next level?
Yeah. So D6 asked me to do a workshop called Visionary Parenting, and they said, we want you to do Visionary Parenting 101. In this workshop. It's funny, they just re-released the book as a second edition, revised and expanded.
Yes, they did.
And, we wrote the first edition when our oldest child was 12. Okay, it's not a good idea to write a parenting book when your oldest child's 12. Okay, he's now 22. So the process for Amy and me you have to do revised and expanded. So you start with your original book that you wrote, and you sit down because you're going to revise it, and you're going to expand it. And I'm reading this with Amy, and I'm like, honey, this is good stuff. We should be doing this. This is great. So it's very humbling. The whole thing is a very humbling process. But here's what we did in the workshop. I think I remember back to when D6 started and the family ministry reformation that's now been going on 20 plus years in our country. I used to have some conversations with fellow family ministry people, parenting people. And I can remember a conversation that we used to have where I was always in the minority of a conversation, and it was this: how are we going to help these parents, right, pass faith to their kids? The majority position was these parents love their kids, they love Jesus, their heart's in the right place, they just need the tools and the tips and the tricks and the resources to do it. And coming out of my testimony, I always would be like the lone one in the room saying, guys, I just don't agree, gals, I just don't agree. We don't need the tools and the tips and the resources. Our hearts are not in the right place. And that was my story. I was a leader at church, but I didn't have any vision, passion, or fire in my belly for being a spiritual leader for my kids. I didn't have a sense of calling and purpose and vision for what my home was all about. So in this workshop that we did, it was not tools and tips and tricks for parents, but you've got to cast biblical vision for them. Why did God even create your family? Why did he even put children in your house? What's the biblical purpose for that from the standpoint of the gospel? And then you back into tools and helps. But if the parent doesn't have the vision and they don't get convicted in their heart that as a parent, the number one mission of my life is to help my kids follow Jesus and help them safely home to their Father in heaven, all your tools, tips, and tricks and resources aren't going to do any good.
Absolutely. Well, hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're with Dr. Rob Rienow from Visionary Family Ministries, and we will be back in just a second. We're going to be talking about why every church needs family ministry. I can't wait to hear it. All right, we will be back in just a second. Hey, Ron, we are taking a quick break from our conversation, and I want to ask you about Easter, because that's coming up, and you guys have a resource for Easter.
Yeah, for the last couple of years, we have offered an Easter Advent Guide, and they have been incredible for the families to walk through this time together leading up to the cross, the crucifixion, the resurrection, and how we can have those conversations surrounding what may be the most monumental moment in Christianity. That's Christ dying on the cross for us. And if your church has not taken advantage of walking through the Advent guides, consider purchasing them and giving them to each of your family members. They're inexpensive. You buy them in bulk, and every year they always sell out. So I want you to go ahead and get in on those early. Oftentimes people call us, right up close to the time, and that's kind of pointless. So please go ahead and get your orders in now.
Hey, being a podcast listener has its benefits.
It
you got
does.
you. There's
That's
your
right.
warning. Go ahead and grab
That's
it while you
right.
can. d6family.com. Now let's get back to our conversation. We're back with Dr. Rob Rienow, and I noticed on your website that you're offering a free ebook called Why Every Church Needs Family Ministry. And you were just alluding to it just a second. Let's lay it out. Why? Why does every church need it?
Sure. Well, we'll start with some bad reasons to do family ministry. We've been a part of the D6 movement now from the beginning.
Yeah.
Lots of churches interested, lots of churches launching family ministry, and I see many churches beginning family ministry with a very faulty foundation. Many churches begin family ministry because of the statistics. They'll come and they'll say, you know what, we see X percent of kids walking away from the faith. And if we engaged the home, if we engaged parents, if we started family ministry, then more kids would follow Jesus. Translation, this will work better. This will be more effective. Well, here's the problem with this. If that's the foundation we're building on, that this is going to work better, engaging the home in next generational discipleship, you're only going to keep building on that until next year's conference that you go to, which will say, no, this will work better, and this will work better, and this will work better. The other faulty foundation that a lot of churches build on is they've got somebody on staff who's into it. They're into this family ministry stuff. Maybe it's their children's pastor, youth pastor, family pastor, senior pastor, and they just got to be in their bonnet about all this family stuff. And they're an influential person on the church staff. They've got some clout and they've got some budget. So they start doing stuff. They start doing family this and family that and family this. And it's all great. Love what they're doing. But the base for the family ministry in that church is that person. And if that person leaves, everything happening in the church family ministry-wise is going to leave with them.
So true.
So why do we do this? We don't do it for statistics. We don't do it because it's going to work better. We don't do it because we've got somebody on staff that's got to be in their bonnet about it. The reason to do family ministry is that if you look at the church in the New Testament, they did family ministry. And if you are committed to the Great Commission, any church that's committed to the Great Commission, you look at the Bible and you see God created the family as a disciple-making institution. That God created the church and the home to partner together in the gospel like two pedals on a bike, and that the home, or that the church, is called to equip the home for spiritual success. Ephesians 4:12. The church is supposed to equip the saints for work of ministry. Well, is parenting a ministry? Sure it is. It is a gospel Great Commission ministry. So the church has to equip parents. Is marriage a ministry? Yeah, it's the most difficult ministry of your life. So the church has to have a marriage ministry. So the base for family ministry is actually a theological base. And so I wish all the D6 folks, I had some conversations this morning. I always ask them, if you go home after D6, and somebody from your church says, why are you doing family ministry? What are you going to say? I say, why are we doing it? I don't know. Well, what I want you to say is that, hey, here at First Church of wherever, we are totally committed to the Great Commission and advancing God's kingdom in the world. And in the Bible, God's created the church and the home to partner together to build his kingdom. So in order to be a gospel church, we've got to have a family ministry. That's why to do it.
That's so good. All right, your wife, I met her the other day, and your daughter is here as well because they've published their own books. Number one, are their books better than yours?
Much.
Good man, smart man. Share with us. I want to give you some bragging time. Brag on them about their books and talk to us about what it's like to live in a family of authors, because that's got to be cool to, especially, I know Amy has co-authored with you.
Yes.
This isn't her first rodeo, but Lissy, it is, and it's kind of cool to see your daughter write a book. I mean, how cool is that?
Well, it's been unbelievable. You know, our vision is that as a family, we would have a chance to serve, you know, and each one of us using our gifts and being a blessing to churches and being a blessing to other families. Amy was writing books before I even thought about writing books. She wrote a devotional called Shine. It was when we were in youth ministry. So she wrote a devotional for teenage girls about identity in Christ. And she is a gifted writer. I am not a writer. I am a preacher. I speak and then I write it down. And so it goes from preaching to books. So people will read stuff I write. They'll say, boy, it sounds like you're talking to me. I'm like, well, that's because I am. Whereas Amy has an ability with words to communicate and to communicate her heart. And so her brand new book is called The Not So Perfect Mom.
Yes, I can't wait to interview her about that.
Oh, you're going to absolutely love it. So it's on guilt and perfectionism in mothers. And she talked to me, she's like, it is the accumulation of all of the conversations I've had with moms on sports sidelines and at the pool and all the real life things that moms are dealing with, particularly in this area of comparison to the other Instagram moms and the other Instagram kids and all this. And it's just such a genuine, honest sharing of Amy's journey through those struggles and kind of an inside look into the ups and downs of our own family. Lissy is just turned 20, and about a year and a half ago, the D6 was doing the D6 Connect tour, getting ready for the Orlando event. So they were doing some regional conferences, and they asked me to come and speak for 4 days, and I couldn't do it. I said, well, you really ought to have Amy come, and she's published with Rienow House. And they said, oh, that'd be even better. So Amy came, and they said, well, maybe, and Amy said, well, how about I have Lissy come and we can do a little mother-daughter kind of sharing about family discipleship. And coming out of that, Rienow House asked Lissy to really develop more of what she had shared at those D6 conferences, and that has turned into a project called The Heart of Your Teen. So it's Lissy, it was a big jump for her to do this. So they wanted Lissy to write a book for parents on the parent-teen relationship from the teen's perspective.
Isn't that cool?
So now Lissy's like, I'm not a parent. I don't do parenting ministry. They're like, but you are a teenager. You've grown up in a Christian home with bumbling, stumbling parents. And so what she did is she interviewed 40 teenagers from around the world in a very wide range of families, all Christian families, but some quite nominal and others, more serious. And she mixed in the scriptures that have impacted her life, the ups and downs, like the inside baseball of the Rienow family, which is not a pretty picture at times, as well as some of the most incredible interviews with these teenagers about what their parents did discipleship-wise that worked and what drove them nuts and hardened their hearts sometimes. And so it is just this honest journey. So Lissy spoke on this subject yesterday for parents. She actually spoke to youth pastors yesterday, and she's going to share this in a couple minutes in her keynote mini, where she just really has a burden that she came to me and Amy, and she said, you and Mom are always out. You're telling parents they got to turn their hearts to their kids. Who's talking to the kids about turning their hearts to their parents? And she's like, our youth pastors and this whole family discipleship movement, they've got to catch a vision for sharing this with teenagers and kids to turn their hearts to their moms and dads, not just reaching moms and dads and grandmas and grandpas in the church. So that's what she's going to talk about in her keynote.
Love it. Gosh, it's going to be so good. I mean, you're in trouble, man. I think they're going to take you over.
Praise the Lord.
You're about to go to third string real fast.
Couldn't be happier.
Hey, thanks again for being with us. It's such an honor to have you as always. And come back again next year. The uncle to the family reunion, you're invited.
Thanks for your friendship, Jeremy. I'm grateful.
Okay, thank you to Dr. Rob Rienow for spending another great interview with us, and good luck on your son's wedding. I hope you enjoyed that amazing and so useful advice we gave you.
That's it. And just know that your wallet will kind of replenish itself over time.
Eventually.
Yes.
Hopefully we'll sell you a lot of books, and that way we can help you out. All right, so Don Myers is our guest, and if you're like me, you might not have heard. I didn't even know Don Myers even before I interviewed him, except for my research that I had done with him, and he blew me away. There's my tease for next week. It is more than I could have thought of that would happen, and he is just the kind of guy that just makes your day. You're going to enjoy next week, so please make it a note to come back and visit us again on the D6 podcast next week, as we have Don Myers as our guest. And as always, we hope that you have a great week of ministry.
You've been listening to the D6 podcast. You can learn more about D6 at d6family.com.